It is finally schedule release day, Sarah, here inside the vault. Looking forward to our coverage tonight and, of course, getting the dates and times with the games and the opponents, of course, that we've known about for months now when it comes to the 2025 NFL regular season calendar. So with that, welcome inside the vault. I'm Bobby Trossett. She's Sarah Ellison. We got a lot to discuss today. We are 42 channel members out, Sarah, from having 200 Voltrons. I'll just throw that out there. Yesterday, we got a litany of different channel membership, gifts giving. There was all kinds of generosity floating around the vault yesterday. So if you guys want to become an official channel member, an official Voltron, you can click on the link that we have included in our pinned comment right now in the live chat. There's also a direct link in the show notes. Sarah, unfortunately for former undrafted rookie Ardarius Washington, his 2025 season is over before it's even started. We'll share the new details on what led to his Achilles tear, according to Ian Rappaport, in just a bit. We'll also get into which free agent or which free agents are available out there for the Ravens at that position, because while they have Kyle and Malachi and they have a couple second-year players, they're probably going to want to bring in a veteran to join that group as well. After that, things are getting even messier than we thought they may be in Cincinnati with Trey Hendrickson. But first, Sarah, right off the top, the first rumored schedule leak has dropped for the Ravens. And the fact that it's taken this far into the week for something to garner this kind of attention, to me, is a surprise. So, for what it's worth, NFL Nerd at Nerding on NFL got over 30,000 followers, most of which are fans, at least the ones that I have mutual with them. They are claiming that week one, this would feed families, Ravens at Bills Sunday Night Football is what they're claiming right now within the hour that was posted. So wouldn't that be something, a rematch of the divisional round?
Oh, yeah, listen, I have no idea if this is legit or not. And really, we don't have the technology to know. If I leaked this to NFL Nerd, because yesterday I talked about how much I wanted Buffalo week one on Sunday night, because the Ravens have a great Sunday night record over the last couple of years. Not just great, the best over the last couple of years. And on top of it, I was like, yeah, give me the Bills in Buffalo right from the start so that we can begin the revenge tour. It doesn't end until you make it and win the AFC Championship game. It'd be better if you could beat the Bills in the postseason. Maybe the Ravens will get that chance, but they get to start at the same opportunity the Ravens had last year. After being knocked out by the Chiefs, they went week one into Kansas City. They were a toe short of sending that perhaps to overtime or maybe winning it all. So now they get the second opportunity to start the revenge cycle on week one, if this is true. And in case nobody noticed that I was joking, it's a joke. I did not leak this, although it would be exactly what I would want. So we may not know until 8 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, that would be something. And obviously, these two fan bases, these two teams, where they've been, where they're going, makes a lot of sense. 8 o'clock tonight, we'll figure it out for real, unless it's actually leaked by one of the NFL insiders. But man, that would feel rather fitting to start the year the way that it ended, to your point, much like the exact same way it was at the start of 2024. Some of the biggest games, though, according to Greg Auman, we've actually had him on the show before. Greg's a former guest of ours. He's working for Fox Sports now. And this is a Fox graphic. Top 10 biggest games of the season. Ravens find themselves on this list a couple times. Eagles and Chiefs, of course, is going to be on there with a rematch of last year's Super Bowl matchup. The Ravens and Bills make this list. The Ravens and Chiefs make this list. A lot of AFC North matchups on here. Well, no specific AFC North matchups, but Pittsburgh is on this list. Surprised Cincy's not on this list, but that's your top 10 according to our friend Greg.
Oh, that would, again, number 4, that would, garner the stage that is Sunday Night Football week one. It would be great. I think Greg is absolutely right. One of the most anticipated games of the season for sure.
And we had one more too. Speaking of, you're going to pull up that Chiefs one as well. Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
One more graphic slipped in there, but
now this one is official. Right?
Tough for people who cover the Chiefs, because not only are they playing on Christmas night, But they're playing on Thanksgiving afternoon at 4:30 against the Cowboys. So City and Philly, Sarah, they're already planning things because their schedule is basically out. It's all but out. Bunch of matchups have been released, and that's the latest there. We all kind of just sit back and not relax, but probably brace ourselves for whether or not the Ravens will have back-to-back Christmas Day matchups and maybe just maybe a Green Bay matchup on Thanksgiving Day. So to be determined. But partner, late last night, I had just finished up my live stream talking about Kamon Rucker, who's one of the undrafted free agents that they signed that completed the 90-man roster. He's the first former edge rusher for the Tar Heels, University of North Carolina. And then I'm sitting down to watch the Pacers game. By the way, Indianapolis moves on. That was a heck of a series for them. Dominance taking down the top-seeded Cavs. But then this comes down the timeline, and you just hate to see it. It's almost like I almost gasped for him because this guy is not only a playmaker, but such a good person, such a great story that you hate to see things happen to guys like Ardarius Washington, who, yes, was expected to play a key role in the secondary, certainly played exactly that, Sarah, last year after Marcus Williams was benched. He started 10 games, had a couple interceptions, just provided a certain level of stability and consistency on that back end that they so desperately needed, having been so susceptible up to that point to the big play, brutal pass defense, so on and so forth. But Ardarius has torn his Achilles, Sarah, in a conditioning session. Ian Rappaport was all over this. He's expected to miss most of, if not the entirety of the 2025 season. And knowing what his offseason has been like, Sarah, which we've covered at length, dating back to the pre-free agency nuggets that we got on that, and knowing that going into a contract year, he had a chip on his shoulder, this is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, well, let me play a video here from Ian Rappaport that kind of gives a little bit of the details around it, where it happened. Here, he just explains that it's conditioning, but where did that happen? He'll explain here on this YouTube short.
A brutal reality for Ardarius Washington, the up-and-coming safety / defensive back / corner / nickel for the Baltimore Ravens, really a player who was coming on at the end of last year, helped key that improvement in the defense. Big things were expected of him in 2025. Now he has hit a roadblock. Sources say he has torn his Achilles, and that is confirmed by the MRI. Expected to miss at least the start of the 2025 season, maybe the entire season. From what I understand, this happened in conditioning at the Ravens facility, basically during off-season conditioning right now. Now, the Ravens did draft Malachi Starks, really good NFL-ready safety in the first round of the draft, but Ardarius Washington was an up-and-comer. This one stings for Baltimore.
So, Bobby, I think that's important to know that it happened at the Ravens facility during the team's conditioning session, because if you can get injured outside of the team facility, then sometimes your contract isn't guaranteed. Depends on what the details in and how that is. But that was the whole dispute that the Ravens just had with Tyus Bowser. At least that's the way it seems from the outside, that he just dropped recently. So it did happen while inside the facility. And it really is gut-wrenching. It is gut-wrenching. Ardarius Washington responded to the news this morning on his IG account. He said, "Words can't describe how I feel right now. All I want to do is prove that I'm one of the best in business year after year. But God said not right now. So until then, we wait. I appreciate everybody who reached out. Major love. Won't be too long. I'm back standing on business. No dat. #TIG." And then it gets greater later. Slime. I don't know what that means. So I don't know what the slime is at the end with the prayer emoji. So, but listen, I expect nothing less from Ardarius to have this like reaction of like, it won't be too long before I'm back. It reminded me the last time he had a season-ending injury, which was in 2023 when he hurt his chest. He posted a picture of himself in the hospital bed. Seemed like he was going into surgery. He said, "I appreciate everyone that reached out and prayed for me. I will be back better than before in due time. #TIG, the journey begins." And so, Bobby, when he says I'm going to be back, and that one he said I'm going to be back better than ever. And he was in 2024. Boy, oh boy, was he better than ever, including when he got to take over for Marcus Williams, who was not playing well. And two of my favorite, probably everybody's favorite plays from him last year when he started to take over as the starter is when he stopped Joe Mixon and the Houston Texans on 4th and 1. And just look at Mixon just bent over from that hit from a 5'8", 180-pound Ardarius Washington on the sideline. He was clearly upset afterwards, but absolutely the best one is when he takes on Russell Wilson of the Steelers. This, I think, was the playoff game, right? Russell Wilson trying to score at the 1-yard line. Ardarius, bam, knocks the ball out. Complete game changer. Complete game-changing moment. Ardarius Washington is a dog. So when he says, I'm going to be back standing on business, know that. I do know that. I do believe that Ardarius Washington will return.
I hope so. His first 3 seasons, he was able to get into just 8 games. That's all he was available for, 8 games. And so unfortunately for Ardarius, this has been a trend that's followed him throughout his career. You just showed, that look back after the chest injury. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a player that at 5'8", $180, that undersized frame has come back to bite him at times. It's led to a lack of durability. And last year, you feel so promising coming off a season where not only were you available and played in all 17 games, but as we've mentioned a couple times now, when Marcus is benched, you get an opportunity to not just come in and show who you are, but you become a mainstay. And you become like a co-captain of that defense on the back end with Kyle Hamilton. If he's the field general, we all know 14 is, Ardarius acted like he was the assistant field general last year. 10 total starts. I mentioned those 2 picks. You mentioned a couple of those hit stick plays, one on Mixon, one on Russell Wilson. Another one that really comes to mind is Pat Freiermuth, the tight end for the Steelers. These are plays that you just put your head down and you take everything out of the equation. All you're trying to do is put your body on the line for your team and for the men that you're playing alongside and for the jersey that you rep and the number that you wear. He became a fan favorite, yes, because of his underdog story that's attached to him as a former undrafted rookie out of TCU. But he became a mainstay fan favorite last year because of his playmaking ability and the way that he helped single-handedly, it was a collective effort, I shouldn't say single-handedly, turn around what was a woeful start throughout the first half of last year. They were susceptible to the big play. Their passing defense was
the worst.
I was trying to be nice about it. It was among the worst. Yes, at times it was the worst.
Yeah, 32 is the worst. Out of when you have 32 teams and you're ranked number 32 in pass defense, that makes you the worst.
Thank you. I needed a little bit of help there to finish the sentence because I didn't want to be too critical. But you get my point. And I think we all feel for Ardarius, particularly given the negotiations that it took place this offseason. I remember chatting about that with you extensively prior to free agency. And on that RFA tender, this would have been a year, much like last year, where he was out there playing with reckless abandon and a certain level of desperation to show who he is and earn a legitimate contract. And so for that and much more, it's a big loss. It's one that they'll be prepared for. It's a big moment for Malachi Starks. And now at some point, Sarah, wouldn't you expect them to be involved in the veteran DB market?
Yeah, but before we hit that, we will definitely look at who's out there. But you just mentioned Ardarius Washington's contract. This is what hurts a little bit more. So this is terrible news, both for Ardarius and for the Ravens. So let's look at this from Ardarius first, and then we'll get to the Ravens and how they're going to be able to replace him on the roster and what they can do. But look at this from Ardarius's point of view. This is gut-wrenching. Bobby, we covered this back in March. On March 9th, Ardarius put out what appeared to be a cryptic message on Twitter, and all it said was bet. Less than an hour later, he tweets again, SOB all 2025 regardless. SOB Super Bowl or bust, maybe?
I think stand on business.
Stand on business. Okay, could be that too. That's probably better. I like Super Bowl or bust. Okay, so we had kind of like talked about what this could mean, and we speculated that it might have something to do with his contract. Well, this was on a Sunday that he put this out. On Wednesday, Jeff Zrebiec announces, and the Ravens later confirmed, that they gave him the $3.263 million right of first refusal tender, which meant that if Ardarius Washington signed an offer sheet with another team, the Ravens would have the chance to match it. And if they didn't, they would lose Washington for no compensation. They did not put the second round tender on him. And so the Ravens made a small gamble that they wouldn't lose Ardarius Washington elsewhere. Turns out, we all know, he didn't. The deadline came for him to sign with somebody else. It didn't happen. So he ended up signing this contract worth about $3.3 million for 2025. He'll get that 3.3, especially because he had that injury on campus, according to Ian Rappaport. But what happened between these 3 days, between Sunday and Monday? Well, after Jeff announced that, somebody on Twitter said, so did they have to wait for the new league year to tender him, or were they trying to get a long-term deal done? And he said that the deadline to extend the tender had passed. He said, but they did have extension talks over the weekend, which is when he was tweeting bet and SOB all 2025. He said they did have extension talks over the weekend, just couldn't get a deal done. So the Ravens made a gamble in terms of contracts. The gamble paid off. Ardarius Washington was betting on himself, Bobby. Sounds like an extension was talked about. He probably didn't like what was offered. So he said, you know what? I had such a great 2023. I'm going to bet on myself in 2024. And then this happened. So that even hurts even more to know that there was extension talks. It probably would have been worth more than $3.3 million. But he bet on himself and this happened. It's just devastating, I'm sure, from his point of view.
It's such a bummer. It really is, because this goes back to that March conversation. Remember when we caught a little bit of flack? I think I sort of led the charge with saying that I'm not viewing Ardarius as a shoo-in to be a starter. Mm-hmm. I kind of said that, and it was with absolutely no disrespect to Ardarius, the player. That was well before, obviously, they drafted Malachi Starks. We know they have a couple other players that are in the building as well. In second-year players in Bo Braid, the undrafted rookie out of Maryland. And then, of course, Sanusi Kane was the day 3 pick out of Purdue in the 7th round. I said that because, one, there's a reason why he wasn't the starter this time last year. It's not taking away whatsoever from what he had, the way in which he stepped in and stepped up when Marcus Williams was a coach's decision. It was more so understanding the reality of being 5'8", $180 in the NFL. Sometimes your body just doesn't cooperate. Now, is this a durability thing, or is this a strength and conditioning thing? Because I know you asked Qadri Ismail, friend of the show, former Super Bowl winning Raven, somebody that's dedicated his post-playing days to strength training. And I'll be very curious to see what his response is to you, because it's not all that long ago. I am old enough to remember the Steve Saunders era. I know you are as well, in Baltimore. And it was not all that long ago that this team was injury riddled back in 21 and 22. So I saw your question. I'm eagerly waiting an answer from Qadri's perspective as well, in terms of why he felt like this Ardarius Washington injury was, quote, preventable.
Yeah, he's been pushing that pretty hard the last couple of days. So I guess a couple of things that I want to respond to in terms of what you just said. So you mentioned his frame, and are these injuries because of his frame? I don't think an Achilles is because he's a smaller body, right? Like we just saw Tatum lose his Achilles diving for the ball, right? Now Ardarius, like if we review some of his injuries, maybe they were, So remember, he was undrafted in 2021. And then in 2021, they loved him in camp, but then he missed 7 games due to a foot injury. Okay, he comes back for 2022, doesn't have any starts. In 2023, he missed 15 games with the chest. I could see like a chest being more of like a frame thing, right? That you're like putting your body in there and you're just getting a beat down, this and that. He comes back for 2024. We saw what happened. He was spectacular. And now here we are in 2025 where he'll miss 16 games with an Achilles. It's hard for me to say that that's all due to his frame, like especially the Achilles or like a foot. I don't know how that could be. Maybe the chest one for sure. But to your point, he now has that label of injury prone for sure. He had 1 start in 3 seasons, played in 8 games. And then last year he went off having a career best 64 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 8 pass defenses. So to your point about Qadry Ismail, he's speaking, I think, to these type of injuries with Achilles that is, is separate from his size. But he put unpopular opinion, non-contact injuries are preventable. Strength and conditioning coaches need to wake up. Heels in the ground training ain't it. You and I both know Qadry's been preaching this for years. He's been on our show telling us this. And he's a trainer. He'll know more in his pinky about training than I'll ever know in my lifetime, right? And so, but what leaves me wondering is because Qadry has been preaching this for years and he's frequently in the Ravens training facility. So if this is, so I'm wondering what the disconnect is. If what Qadry is saying is correct, and I have no reason to not believe him other than he's saying it is and it keeps happening. Like, I don't know what the disconnect. So it's like, you're in there. Is there a disagreement? Like, do strength and conditioning coaches disagree? Is it a lack of knowledge, just completely unaware of like this new training mechanism? Like, what is it? So I'm with you. I want to know what the answer is because he has been preaching this for years. Now that being said, a lot of times when you have an injury on your own team, you want to say to yourself, oh, why is it that my team is always injured? Why is it my team is always injured? Some people have said that this morning. Jeff Zrebiec pushed back. He pushed back to somebody. He's like, why is it always our key guys? Da, 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 da. And he says, well, everybody loses key guys. The Ravens have been one of the healthiest teams in the league the last 2 years. You mentioned 21 and 22. 21 was especially brutal. He said, you can gloss over that all you want, but they've had plenty of good fortune on their injury front the last few years after a really bad stretch. And so these charts that I have here, Bobby, this is from Sports Info Solutions. They study injuries a lot. And they put together, I think they do this for all leagues, but they have like a proprietary total points missed metric where it's not just finding how many players missed games, because Ardarius Washington missing games will hurt the Ravens. It's not the same as Lamar Jackson missing games. And so they put a weight to it with their analytics. And when you put the weight to it, last year, they had the Ravens as the healthiest team in terms of they've had the least amount of total points missed. And that meets the eye test, right? The Ravens really didn't have too many injuries throughout the year that were brutal. They started creeping up more in the offseason or postseason with Zay Flowers going down. And then the eye test tells us that this is correct. Also, they had the Lions as the most, they missed the most total points due to injury at 158. And so the Ravens, you can take different analytics, but Ravens for sure, if not the healthiest last year, one of the healthiest, and the same 2 years ago. And so when injuries like this happen, you want to like point fingers and you want to say, well, you're doing this wrong or that wrong. But the fact of the matter is as much as you can help prevent it, and I believe that you can, there is also an element of luck, which is why you'll look at something like 21 and 22, where it just seems like nothing can go right. And then you've got 23 and 24, where you're one of the healthiest in the league.
So it's important to note, too, that they did make significant changes. I guess when I say important to note, important to remind everyone that when they parted ways with Steve Saunders, individualized workouts based on injury history, priority, position, so on and so forth were more incentivized, were more prioritized. Remember Pat Ricard sharing some information with me about that in terms of the transition from what was the Steve Saunders era
Mm-hmm.
and what became Scott Elliott's era, who was promoted underneath Steve Saunders, and he's been the head strength and conditioning coach ever since.
Right.
So that element of luck, though, Sarah, super tough to measure. And when you say luck, too, it's bad luck in this case for Ardarius, of course. So anyway, we're thinking of number 29, man. It's friggin' brutal. And now you wonder, well, what's next? And who else is there? Well,
before we get to that, we got several super chats now.
Sure.
Just as a transition, maybe?
Absolutely. We started the show with 42 channel members out from 200 Voltrons. And being that Justin and Nate have gifted or become members, we are now 40 out from 200. So we'll keep track of that. Olu and Sonia and Mysteriously Unnamed and Sheree and Nate Campbell all became members. Nate actually gifted a membership. So let us know out there if you were on the receiving end of Nate's generous gift. We appreciate you guys so much. Justin Holt has become a channel member as well. And we'll get to some super chats, beginning with Laura, who's a member now, celebrating 2 months. Sarah, Laura in the house.
She said, I didn't know we had this perk until yesterday. Love the show. Looking forward to it tonight. I think maybe the second month anniversary, they can do a super chat. Is that what she's referring to?
Every month that perk comes around. So Laura, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate the comment. Appreciate the support. And what a surprise. Look who's back.
Park Heights. Park Heights. We were trying to, spare his wallet yesterday, but he was so generous. And here he is starting out today with a $30 one, but he's doing it for $29 because of course that is Ardarius Washington's number. And sorry, I stole this from you. It's your turn to read this.
You're on a roll. Keep it going.
Okay. Prayers up for number 29, Ardarius Washington. I need Buffalo in week 1. That's how I imagine him saying it. I need Buffalo in week 1. Who is with me? I'm with you, Park Heights. I'm with you.
Any chance you get to go to Western New York, I'll keep saying this as an upstate New York native. I know the climate. Any chance you get to go there in September, Sarah, versus December or January, you'll take that and run. Appreciate you, Park Heights. Dreams, Quion says, why do the sports gods hate the little guy when it's time to get paid? When it was time for IT from Boston to get the bag, he got hurt. It's unfair, referring to Isaiah Thomas. Had an incredible run with the Celtics years ago. I remember that like it was, oh man, that's when I was a huge, avid, consistent daily watcher of the NBA. IT time. And another one from Dreams, his size has nothing to do with his injury. Maybe not this one. But again, I think over time at that frame, 5'8", 170, 180. And I know, Dreams, you're saying this. This might have been a little got personal for you. I know you said you were 5'5". I'm 5'8". On a good day. I think when you have things like a chest flare up and you throw your body around the way that he so admirably does, and you're a playmaker the way that he is, it's tough. It's tough when you think about the other types of players, measurement-wise, weight-wise, size-wise, that you're going up against. So just a comment. And another one from Rossi Clark.
Mustache starting to look good. Hashtag handlebar Bobby.
Handlebar. Well, I did just shave. I'm going to get a haircut at some point today or tomorrow. So it's probably jumping out a little bit more at you just because I cleaned up around the, thank you, Rossi. Appreciate you. And thank you guys for being here today. We hope that you'll spend some time with us in under 7 hours from now when our special schedule release live stream gets started at 7 o'clock. We're going to have giveaways, special guests. Be More Around Town will be exclusively sponsoring it. We'll be telling you about their 2025 Purple Road Trip slate that Brian Snyder has in store. And maybe, just maybe, week 1, Sarah, will indeed be primetime in Buffalo. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I guess the natural progression now is, where do you go from here, being that there is one less safety available in the room? And of course, the Ravens did use the 27th overall selection on Georgia safety Malachi Starks in the first round last month. This is a great tweet here from Ryan at Beast Writer. He writes, this is why you can never go wrong when going BPA, best player available. And he quotes the great Ozzie Newsome, who's still very much involved in the organization. A luxury today can be a necessity tomorrow, partner. I'm sure you've heard that a time or two from your days with the organization. But while they never, ever wanted this to happen, and maybe didn't plan for this to happen, they are prepared to move on without Ardarius Washington.
Absolutely. I mean, this is when you think about next man up, this graphic right here is your number one option. We'll talk about free agents and other guys that are depth, but this is it. I mean, the Ravens finished last season with Kyle Hamilton, Ardarius Washington, Siragusa, Kane, and Bo Braid. That's who they finished with last year. I think Marcus Williams was still around, but you get what I mean. Like, those were the guys that they were going to rely on. Okay, so now what you're doing essentially now is substituting Starks in for Ardarius Washington. And so you're not in a terrible spot at all. They finished much better down the stretch when they put in Ardarius Washington. Starks is going to have a little bit of a learning curve, as all rookies do. And so if it really is the Buffalo Bills week 1, that's going to be a lot on Starks here. That being said, by the time the season ends, if these two guys are still healthy, the Ravens are going to have a great defensive back room, okay, and a safety room, as long as these two guys are safety. What you're losing, obviously, is having 3 starting caliber safeties that are starting caliber, and therefore allowing Kyle Hamilton to do more of his versatile stuff and using him as the ultimate chess piece. That's what you're losing. And that hurts. But boy, oh boy, that Starks pick is massive. To your point and to Ryan's point, looking back, like had Ardarius Washington gone down before the draft doing conditioning, I think more people would have been clamoring for a safety.
Yeah.
And so it's just insane that the Ravens were fortunate that Malachi Starks fell, who they believe was the top safety. And that now, if he wasn't here, it would be the biggest glaring need. And now it's still a need, but not as glaring. So those are the two. These two guys, Bo Braid and Siragusa Kane, now have a major opportunity in front of them. Last year, they were special teams guys. Last year, they both forced the Ravens' hands, saying, you're going to keep both of us on this 53-man roster, even though at the time you felt good with Marcus Williams. And who's the other guy that they cut? I've already forgotten his name.
Eddie Jackson.
Eddie Jackson. We know that you guys have all those safeties, but we're forcing your hand. You're going to keep us because we got special teams. And so maybe, who knows? We've got all these offseason workouts. They're going to force the Ravens' hands again and say, you don't need to go out and get a veteran safety because one of the two of us or both of us can step up in a rotational type manner and help out. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I think that the Ravens should still look at the free agent market, but they've beat the odds before. Maybe they could do it again.
Well, let's take a look at that market, though, just for, what's in giggles. Kevin Ostreicher took a look at the top available free agent safety options. And there's some names on here that have been floated around over the last couple off seasons. Justin Simmons, of course, who got the bag from Atlanta a year or two ago. He's atop this list. Julian Blackmon, Jordan Whitehead, Quandre Diggs, Jordan Poyer, Marcus Williams, Chuck Clark, former Raven who spent his last couple of years with the New York Jets, Kayvon Wallace, Marcus May, Von Bell, Rodney McLeod, so on and so forth. That's about 10 names or so, Sarah, that would fit the bill. I don't know if they would, every single one of these names would actually fit the bill, though, in terms of like a financial side of things, especially because Justin appears to still be in his earning phase, even though he's still on the market for a reason at this point in mid-May. Any name on this list jump out to you?
Well, a couple guys jump out for different reasons. First of all, you kind of already made one jump out, which was Marcus Williams. That is not happening.
Jump out in the wrong.
Yeah. And I know Kevin's just giving the full list of the guys that are out there, right? And so I don't think he's like saying any one of these are more realistic than the others, but Marcus Williams is not returning. I don't think the Ravens want him to return. I don't think he wants to return. They're already paying him dead money. That is gone. I'm not unlike many people out there. If you're going to go out and you feel like these two second-year safeties aren't quite ready for the role yet, given that it'd be a pretty young group, Kyle Hamilton being the oldest, and he's still on his rookie contract. Obviously a very savvy all-pro in Kyle Hamilton, but I don't think it would hurt to have, another veteran in there. And so Justin Simmons is a guy that for sure jumps out. I just don't know that Justin Simmons is going to want this particular job. Listen, he's still out there. The draft is gone, and he's still out there. All of these guys are still out there for a reason, okay? So he may not get exactly what he's looking for. I imagine he still sees himself as a full-time starting safety. If he were to come to the Ravens with an all-pro with Kyle Hamilton and then a first-round draft pick in Starks, is he going to want to join this group, right? Because he would be more rotational, and the future is already here. And so at the same time, does he want to join a potential Super Bowl run? And so maybe he will. But I think Justin Simmons is that kind of ball hawk guy. I think he'd be a great mentor to Malachi. And I think he'd be a great fit. And being that he's at the end of his career, knowing that he'd be more rotational, that would be great. I got to tell you, if we're talking former Ravens, Chuck Clark wouldn't be off my list. I like that guy, and I think Jordan Poyer would be funny coming from the Bills. Going back there week 1 would be kind of funny. But, if Justin Simmons were open to it, he'd be at the top of my list.
Yeah, I could get behind Chuck Clark as well, reuniting there. I had heard at one point there was a little bit of friction between he and Kyle, but clearly they got over that. Chuck spent his last couple of years with the New York Jets. He was banged up, so we'd have to look into his injury history, and the Ravens would have to be comfortable with where he's at right now in terms of durability and overall health. But I think it's pretty clear that based on the way they've acted in recent years, this time of year, they brought in Eddie Jackson, I think in June. I think it was right before we went on vacation. It was either late June or early July last year. By the way, we're going to do that same exact dark period that we always do over July 4th week. And we were just kind of sinking our teeth into our plans yesterday on our call, which I was excited about. And so when you study their behavioral habits at the safety position in recent years, this time of year, and then you add in to the equation Ardarius's loss, you got to think that it's a matter of when, not if, that they're going to try and bring in somebody that can at least bring a level of experience to the room.
Yeah, I just don't think that that's enough. Like, to your point, I just don't know that those 4 are enough right now, because you just don't. Again, Sanusi Kane and Bo Braid, maybe they step up big time. But if Kyle or Malachi were to go down, you would need more than Sanusi and Bo Braid in the room.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So I think that they do need another veteran in there for insurance, for sure.
I agree. So we'll have to wait and see on that note. But for now, you got those 4. And hey, Sanusi put on some highlight reel tape on special teams, but it was a small sample size.
Yeah, they were both great on special teams.
Small sample size. So
yeah,
more to come. Trey Hendrickson, it was your idea to bring this one in because he basically straight up said, I'm not playing this year without a new contract. He showed up in his golf outfit, which we shared yesterday. I think we added to the quick hits because it was happening, or whenever this was earlier this week, we brought it into our quick hits in real time. But this is garnering a lot of attention. There's a lot of dialogue surrounding this. And Sarah, clearly, it has become personal. It may not be irreparable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what he's made clear. And he also cited Myles Garrett, which we've discussed, right? The messaging on how that turned really took a 180 from I'm not playing here, I'm out of here, to, oh yeah, you're gonna make me the highest paid ever. Okay, yeah, I'll stay in Cleveland with 4 different quarterbacks with 0 direction moving forward. So it may not be irreparable, but it's getting a little ugly right now, and it's playing out through the media.
Well, and obviously for those that ever ask, we cover the AFC North here inside the vault, so let's just get those questions out of the way. Number 2, the Ravens would benefit if the Bengals were to repeat having probably the worst defense in the league, and losing one of the best pass rushers who's threatening not to play would be major for the Ravens. And so I said, when news first started coming up, when he asked for a trade and this and that, I'm like, oh, these are all your normal negotiating tactics that players will use. A lot of times it's not personal. I think you said it perfectly. It has gotten personal, and I'm going to play a clip where he says that himself. It has gotten personal, but like you said, not irreparable.
Irreparable.
There we go.
But,
Thank you.
I mean, buckle up. Because
listen, if he got paid, he'd be fine. He wants to stay. He made that clear. He said he met his wife out there in Cincy. His kids were born there. He wants to stay. So if he got paid, they're going to be best buds again. Okay. But until then, there are so many questions. He talked for 22, 23 minutes with reporters. And this is what's hilarious to me is he goes to the voluntary OTAs and he shows up in like he's ready to play golf. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And he doesn't practice. And then afterwards, he talks to the media for 23 minutes. He had stuff to get off of his chest, but here is where he said it has gotten personal and he has been threatened with fines. Here we go.
Transpired between me and Zach. We've tried to keep it as least amount personal as possible, but at some point in this process, it becomes personal. Being sent 30 days before mandatory camp, or however many days it is, that if I don't show up I will be fined, alludes to the fact that something won't get done in that time frame, and that with the lack of communication post draft made it evidently clear from my party, meaning my wife, my son, my agent, right, like we're talking a small group of people, that I had to inform that this might not work out. And that's unfortunate. I don't think it was necessary. I think we all should have hoped for the best until proven otherwise. But through that, other things have transpired, like the importance of me being here in OTAs doesn't seem to be respected, and I think I've carried a lot of respect. I don't mean to insinuate anything about anyone's character, but that was disappointing. I think that's the word of the offseason. I think we gave it our all under Lou's defense, and we did fall short. And that's about being a man, too, is standing up.
Yeah, so I think he makes a really good point there, Bobby. He was like, if you were texting me weeks, maybe even a month before mandatory minicamp, and you're threatening fines, that tells me you're not even considering contract negotiations, right? Which is like probably to him a big wake-up call, because he said back in January he felt like he could have gotten a new deal. And so he was asked specifically, will you sit out if you don't get a contract? And he's like, I don't want to answer that hypothetical, because hypothetically we wouldn't even be here if they paid me in January. So he didn't want to answer that, although I feel like he has said that in the past. And so this has definitely gotten to the point where there's just like a standstill. And now it appeared this way to me with the Browns too. But the Bengals don't look like they're going to budge when they're threatening fines a month before mandatory minicamp starts.
That might be the case, but I don't know what ground they have to stand on. Look at what this dude was last year and has been for a team that – is there any other positive aspect of their defense from last year aside from Trey Hendrickson? I'd be hard-pressed to find what that is. He was the leading sack getter with 17.5, clearing Myles Garrett by 3.5. He was responsible for 48.6% of Cincinnati's sacks in 24. That was the most by any player for any team across the league. He was a presence for them in what was otherwise a disastrous season on that phase of the ball, on that side of the ball. And so I don't know what the Bengals, in terms of ground to stand on, what they have, but they're digging their heels in.
Till last minute, that's for sure.
They're digging their heels in. Trey and his camp digging their heels in. And if you're Baltimore and you're a fan of Baltimore, you're just kind of sitting back with your popcorn, enjoying this process, much like I'm sure the Bengals community did prior to Lamar getting signed a few years ago.
Well, let's compare and contrast. We're showing the stats of last year and how he led the league in sacks with 17.5. I believe he also had 17 in 2023, which is crazy. Back-to-back years with 17. So you see him leading the league, and yet, excuse me, let me give you one more thing in 2024. He also led the league in quarterback pressure rate. Okay, he had 92 quarterback pressures, so that equated to 18.9%. Okay, so then look at this. You have two AFC North pass rushers. Okay, and we'll look at them and their stats since 2022. You've got Myles Garrett on the right, and you got Trey Hendrickson on the left. They've played in the exact same number of games. Myles Garrett has one more sack than Trey since 2022. Myles Garrett has a lot more tackles, 110 to 83. Almost the same number of assists, same number of interceptions. Okay, so Trey's in the neighborhood. Okay, Garrett's Garrett for sure, but the production's pretty nice. And yet, Trey Hendrickson, in terms of how much money he'll be paid in 2025, ranks number 14.
Yeah, it's not going to.
Max Crosby, TJ Watt. This can't be the new. This has got to be outdated. Myles Garrett's got his new deal. But some of these guys are getting paid triple. And Trey Hendrickson is up there leading the league in sacks. So I think Trey has a leg to stand on for sure. But, if the Bengals don't want to budge because they just paid their 2 wide receivers and they feel like, hey, we're getting a deal in 2025 and we want to keep that deal. And maybe they want to get a look at Shamar Stewart and say, you know what, Trey, you're 30. We'll get you in your first year of your 30s. And maybe we're going to turn the page and go over to Shamar Stewart. So it all depends. I think a lot of it could depend on what they see in their new first round draft pick.
Joey B and company better be planned, better be ready. They got to hang 40 consistently if that defense shows up the way that it did last year. Well, our friend Garnett, who is also actually in the chat today, he actually had a hilarious comment earlier on that was not a super chat that I starred that I want to bring up in quick hits because I got a kick out of it. But he tweeted out a screenshot from Daniel Faalele's Instagram account. Mm-hmm. He's been working with Ronnie, Sarah, by the way, this offseason. They're putting in work together. And Garnett's like, hey, the big dog's locked in. Look at him, 6'6", 300-plus pounds. Big Faalele getting ready for potentially a second consecutive year as the starting guard in Baltimore, and he's looking pretty yoked. How about that right bicep?
Dude.
Look out.
Well, let me tell you something, Bobby. I feel like Daniel Faalele, one of the things that has held him back is his conditioning. There's been many reports when reporters are there for training camp that Daniel Faalele doesn't get through whole practices and stuff like that. And I know that training camp practices are brutal. But a lot of times, like, he just doesn't play as if he has all that energy. He doesn't play up to, his size. Of course, he's not necessarily going to have the footwork that some of the, more athletic offensive linemen will have, but you want him to play angry. You want him to finish people off. You want him to look for work in space. And so conditioning could be huge for him. It could be huge for him to, like, transform into another level. He became that starter last year, despite all of our calls for a change, especially after that Raiders game. But he held on. He did get better. I don't think he was Pro Bowl level, but he did get better. So if he can get himself, and I like to see this, I like to see a hungry Daniel Faalele. I'm sure he knows what people say. I'm sure he's heard how people doubt him. And so let him use it as fuel. Get conditioned, big guy. You're already chiseled. And so just get conditioned, and maybe that'll help him take it to another notch. So you know what? Here we are. Why don't we root him on, and we'll see what he becomes in training camp and beyond, because he has the body for it. Can he get the conditioning? And I'm glad to see him working on it.
It's nice to see him work. It can't hurt that you're working with Ronnie Stanley, just the way that he's the consummate professional, how meticulous he is. We read a portion of his piece in the Players Tribune yesterday where he referred to himself as, paraphrasing, essentially a freak about his technique and how passionate he is in terms of the minuscule stuff, in terms of what goes into the technique, what goes into maintaining your body. So that can't hurt. But yeah, if he shows up conditioned, it's one thing, and that'll help. But when you're 6'6", when you have the stature of a Daniel Faalele, lateral quickness and footwork isn't exactly going to be your calling card. So I think he's going to be battling those realities no matter how he shows up. But for his sake, all you can hope for is that he shows up conditioned, ready to rock, and follow up what was a career year for him.
What's hilarious to me, Bobby, is that there are few people on this planet that could make Ronnie Stanley look skinny and small.
He's one of them.
And Daniel Faalele is one of them. Like, if you go stand next to Ronnie Stanley, he's huge. He's huge. He's tall. He's massive. But then you put him up next to Daniel Faalele, and it's like, hey, Ronnie Stanley looks kind of skinny there. Look at
For
that.
sure.
You know?
For sure. Yeah, that gives you an idea, and it's just especially the shot here, the overhead shot of him working out. It just gives you an idea of actually how much mass is in his biceps. Just look at the sheer size of his forearm, for God's sakes. That's the average size of most people's bicep is his forearm. So
yeah,
good offseason work there. Aaron Wilson noting that Jeff did this as well. That David Ojabo, given his Scotland background, I believe, or Nigerian background,
Scotland or Nigerian, one of the
whatever it is, it's outside the U.S. and he's lived in both places. But the Ravens, as a result of that, were granted a roster exemption. So technically he is the 91st player, and Kamon Rucker out of North Carolina is 90, which completed things yesterday.
Right. So that allows them obviously to carry one extra person. Now, going into the regular season, if you were to be on the 53-man roster, that just counts. However, and he could be stolen, but there would be also an exemption for the practice squad. If the Ravens wanted to use that in the regular season, then they could try to protect him with some of their roster protections, but you only get up to, I think, is it 3 of those? And so somebody could steal him, but it also would give you an extra person on the practice squad, because we've been talking about how he's on the bubble, and, somebody could come along and say, you know what, I'm going to steal a former second rounder if the Ravens gamble and put him there. But based off of what they see over the training camp and over this offseason, maybe they'll think that that's, a perfectly fine gamble.
Checking in on Tylan, 26th birthday. Yeah. Grateful for all the opportunities this life has created for me. Only up from here. He's going to be back in Baltimore for at least the next year. Big play Tylan. Maybe he gets an opportunity to compete for return specialist with LeJonte and whoever else they decide to put out there competing this summer. But there he is with is that a Mercedes?
That's a Mercedes, all right.
Like a Mercedes. Looking clean.
How happy he looks. When he says he's blessed to see 26, he really does look like, he feels gratitude for those blessings.
He's a good person. He's genuinely a good person. It'd be awesome to track him down at some point to get him inside this show, because I just think he is as he comes across.
He's not to like Ardarius Washington's level, because Ardarius got to be a starter, but I kind of put him in that category. He also wasn't an undrafted guy, but kind of like one of those underrated guys who takes advantage of every opportunity that he gets. And so you find yourself cheering for him. So we just recapped those 2 plays that Ardarius Washington made against Houston and against Pittsburgh. And then we could bring up plays that Tylan Wallace has made huge impacts with his returns against the Rams. And what was the other one? The Rams.
Oh, man.
There's one more recently. But he just makes the most of those plays. So, yeah, chat's calling him Big Play T.Y.
Somebody will help out. I think, there you go.
Bengals.
Sebastian says it was Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, again, he's never had a chance to start, but whatever opportunity he's given, he's taken advantage of, which does remind me of Ardarius Washington.
Certainly.
Yeah.
One more quick hit. I brought this one in just because today would have been Tony Siragusa's 58th birthday. Left us far too soon back in the summer of 2022, within that same 24-hour time frame, if you might remember, tragically, when we also lost Jalen Ferguson, who was a active Raven at the time at the outside linebacker position. I just thought this was a beautifully written note by Tony's daughter, Sammy. I have her on Instagram. We've communicated over the years about various things. She's still a diehard Ravens fan, and is involved in so much charity work that Tony left behind. And anyway, I just thought I'd read this quickly. She said, happy birthday, Dad. No one enjoyed life like you did. I wish you were here more than anything so we could celebrate and catch up. I even know the exact gift that I'd get you. There was no one like you, and there never will be. A piece of my heart will always be missing without you here. I love you, and happy birthday to the most amazing dad. You are immensely missed. And if that doesn't hit you in the feels right there, I don't know what does. It is very heavy. Sammy is such a sweet person. Been following along with her career on social media really the last several years. And a beautiful photo there of her childhood and a beautiful dude. He was really something. I'm sure you knew him a lot better than I did, but what a guy.
Yeah, he was, when she said no one enjoyed life like you did, that for sure was him.
Yeah.
It didn't matter where he was just like the life of the party, the life of, it wasn't, you could be at work and he was still making it a party, right? I mean, he just never stopped talking, never stopped cracking jokes, never stopped trolling. Like, he was just fun. He was just fun to have around.
Yeah.
So I imagine, if we miss him, times a million for her.
Yeah. Family's hurting today. Family, it'll be, it'll be 3 years in June. I think it's the 22nd of June, if memory serves me there. So
yeah,
that finishes up quick hits. And
I just wanted to follow up on one thing, because it was driving me nuts that I had the wrong list on there, because I put on cap hit, which that's why Myles Garrett looks so low on the list, because they backloaded his contract. So just real quick, revisiting that, Myles Garrett is number 1 in the league at $40 million. And Trey Hendrickson's number 13 at $21 million.
Yeah.
So just about double there in contract average per year. And yet Trey Hendrickson is putting up very similar numbers.
Right.
So that is where he's coming from on that.
Yeah. And why Cincy does not have, they have something to stand on. There's not a ton of ground there.
Well, I mean, they have the contract to stand on.
The contract is, you can stand on that all you want.
Yeah.
But Trey will be like, all right, well, I want to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not playing, and you can find me all you want. I mean, sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
and players around the league are for sure watching.
Yeah. Let's see what Shamar's all. Hey, show me what your rookie's all about. I'm rooting for him, but show me what he's all about. He hasn't even participated in camp yet. So, and he had 4.5 combined sacks. We all might remember over 4 seasons at Texas A&M.
His whole college career. Yeah.
More super chats have come in. Tim Hughes says, hey, guys, I would like your thoughts on Mina Kimes and Kevin Clark saying that Harbs is the 4th best coach in the NFL. We got an email about this, so why don't we hold it? We'll go.
I haven't watched it. I would like to. I don't know who they. I'm sure they put Andy Reid and is it current coaches? Is it current coaches or?
Here's who I would guess they have. I don't know, but we got an email about this from Brian, so why don't we hold it? So we'll do a segment on it, and we'll actually listen to the segment, be able to give the proper context. If I were to guess, though, quickly on who the 4 are that's in front of them, I would go Andy Reid, Tomlin, and McVay. That would be my guess.
Yeah. So whatever, we'll look at it more, but a lot of people are not going to like hearing this, but yeah, I'd put Harb's top 5. That just sounds right without looking at a list, right in front of me. But yeah, put him as top 5. That does not mean that he's perfect or the greatest coach ever, but top 5 sounds about right. Sure.
People are saying that Tomlin was not in that top 5 and that Sirianni and Campbell may have been in there. So anyway, we'll look into it more and definitely feature that hopefully before the end of the week. And if not, we'll push it to early next. Kobe Pruitt, Sarah.
Did the Bengals capitulate to their quarterback and overspend on one side of the ball and leave no money for their only star defensive player? I'm so sad. Just oozing with sarcasm there. Thank you, Kobe.
Isaiah is celebrating 2 months of Voltron channel membership. And he writes, Faalele will prove to everyone he deserved that Pro Bowl. Promise you, salute.
Hope you're right.
Your lips to God's ears.
That's right.
Isaiah, appreciate the super chat. This was not one, but I did get a good kick out of it earlier from Garnett. And I never told the story on this channel, but I did tell it on mine. And I'm not going to tell the whole thing over today because, quite frankly, we're right on time today. We got a busy day, and I don't – any day that we don't have to go to 1:30 is a win just based on the way that our afternoons are built out. Unless, of course, people have plans of getting us to 200 channel memberships, then I could probably be convinced, Sarah.
Speaking of, don't forget this Park Heights Prophet super chat next.
I won't. There he goes. He goes flying. He's good. Sarah, just because I said that, why do I feel like we're going to be here till 1:45? But everybody just buckle up.
I do have to be somewhere by 1:30 though. Okay. So here we go.
Love it. In other words, get us to 200 before 1:30. Get us to 200, 1:30, or Bobby.
But basically, we're Just to answer this real quick, how far are we? And we'll get back to that one.
Well, we were 42 out, and so we've brought
There's been
in
a couple today.
We've brought in one, two. We're 40 out.
About 40 out. Okay.
Get your park heights for inquiring.
Okay,
Who
back
knows?
to this.
Who knows what that might bring? No, just quickly. I just thought this was funny. Garnett was like, "Hey, I picked up some trash yesterday because of you, Bobby," with the salute and other emojis involved in there as well. And it just speaks to the story that he must have heard on my personal channel from a couple weeks ago when I had a little bit of a late night incident in Canton after drinking, which I don't think that was any way related to my behavior, but I saw people blatantly littering on the street. And so I decided to go
Oh no.
pick up their trash. And
oh, you picked it up. You didn't? Did you say something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Of course you did. What did you say?
I guess in fairness, it was in response to them saying something first, which was very unkind.
Oh, hold on. You saw them litter. You picked it up and they said something to you. Was that something thank you?
No. No, it was not.
What'd they say? I just knocked my light.
Now you're making me wish that I told the story in full on this channel because you're getting a good kick out of it. But well, I was getting in the car and I looked behind me out of my peripheral vision. I saw objects just flying out of the car that was probably, I don't know, less than a half a block away. I turned over and it's just fast food trash, remnants of a fast food meal flying out of the window.
Yeah.
In the street. And I lived
out of the window.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It wasn't like, I was chewing gum, meant to put it in my pocket, and like the gum wrapper kind of slipped out. It was just like out the window. We just ate. It's gone.
It was as blatant as you could possibly get. Now I live right around the corner. Park Heights just closed in on 32 out from 200 with an additional 10 on top of his 20 plus yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was actually 30.
30 plus yesterday. Channel memberships. It's hard to keep track. Let us know if you are on the receiving end. Sarah, you ain't making your 130. Go ahead and reschedule it. Park Heights Profit has just gifted 10 memberships. Let us know if you're on the receiving end. Thank you so much. PHP, we'll call you. PHP.
All right. Okay. So you see the fast food garbage thrown out the window and you pick it up. Did they said something from the car?
Before I picked it up, they said something because I couldn't believe what my eyes were telling me. And
so you didn't say anything at this point?
I didn't say anything, but I was staring.
Oh, you gave him like a dirty look. You gave him the stink eye.
Absolutely. And she got out of the car, the passenger side seat. She probably outweighed me by a couple classes for sure. And she had a bone to pick because she said, "What are you looking at?" And I'm like, "You know exactly what I'm looking at." She goes, "You got a problem?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You're the problem. You're part of the problem when it comes to this block looking the way that it does because there's trash everywhere."
Yeah.
I said, "It's disgusting. This is my neighborhood. It's disgusting." And then things started to kind of unravel a little bit. And I walked over totally non-confrontationally, I guess, grabbed the trash, threw it in the trash can. And as I walked back to the car, her other friend came over and smacked me right in the head.
What? You didn't tell me this story?
Yeah.
What day was this?
Yeah, this was a Friday night. This was a Friday or Saturday night in Canton a couple weeks ago.
I don't know how on Monday in our phone calls you're not telling me this story. Wait, was the friend a male or female?
There were 3 people in the car, 2 women, 1 man. And in rather surprising fashion, the guy was the least confrontational of the 3.
Okay, so you got slapped by another female.
I think he was high as heck, and he was just kind of like dapping me up. Their car reeked of weed, which, hey, do you. But like he was dapping me up, trying to like kind of almost diffuse the situation. And the 2 of them were just like ready to let it rip. And yeah, but when I turned my head for a second to get in the car, and she came over and just got a good lick on the. I mean, nothing that I couldn't get up. I didn't even have to get up. I didn't fall down. Nothing happened. It was just a nice slap on the back of my head. And I turned around. Oh, and she's looking at me like ready to go. And I'm like, we're not going anywhere. I can't go. There's cameras right here.
Right.
I'm not doing that.
Well, and also 3 against 1 wouldn't have been good. Even though it sounds like one guy was just chilling. But that's
he was
good.
the chillest dude.
Oh man. I do not like this story.
I mean, look, it was not.
You got hit upside your head for picking up somebody else's garbage, and you just had a dirty look while doing it.
Absolutely, but remember though, once they started talking as I was doing it, I did not hold my tongue. I said, "You guys are part of the problem.
Yeah,
you're part of the problem. Why our city looks the way that it does."
Yeah.
And I happen to live in this neighborhood. Do you guys live in this neighborhood? And I'm using that tone. I said, I live in this neighborhood, and you're using it like your dump truck. It's a dumping zone.
Dumping grounds.
I said it's disgusting, and it's a part of why this city has the perception that it does outside of this city. So I'm getting hot now because it's just so frustrating to see that kind of blatant littering in the neighborhood in which you live.
Yeah.
Now, emotional intelligence, something that I've struggled with over the years.
You struggle with emotional intelligence?
It's one of the reasons why I was pretty much told that was the reason why I was fired by BAL.
Really? Because of your emotional intelligence?
A lack of emotional intelligence that led to me airing some dirty laundry about my inner working frustrations on the air. Something that I regret. Right?
Okay. All right. Because I was going to say either you lacked emotional intelligence and learned from it, or they were wrong, because I've been working with you for 3 years and you're like very easy to work with.
I think they were dead wrong. I think they were dead wrong with the way that they treated me. It doesn't make what I said on the air right. Which was essentially just airing dirty laundry about some of my frustrations in terms of what was happening behind closed doors with the vision of my role, where I was headed, where I was, where I was going.
You bad talked your employer on air.
Yeah. I said, this is not the job I signed up for. That's the direct quote that was used in the letter of my termination.
Okay. All right.
All I'm saying is,
go ahead.
I've lacked emotional intelligence in the past. Nothing that's crazy, nothing that's violent, but I've lacked a little bit of emotional intelligence. And I think I've really made great improvements looking inward over the last several years. This was a step back for me because what I did was I made the people that I was with very uncomfortable, to the point where they felt unsafe. And they are rule followers, and that's fine. And I think that they were being a little passive in that moment with how they were mad at me. But who am I to tell them how I feel about the way that they feel? Who am I to tell them how they're supposed to feel in a moment that was completely out of control and got a little ugly at the end? I can't tell them that. So I think if there's one thing that I regret about the situation, it's one, putting yourself in harm's way for no reason.
Because you never know who's coming out of those cars. You do not know who's in there.
There's nothing good that can come from it. Either one of them, any one of those three could have been armed. Anybody that's outside of the car could have seen the situation. So I put myself in harm's way unnecessarily so. And the same could be said for the two people that I was with that I consider very good friends. And I know for a fact, because of the very tough conversation that we had afterwards, that they were not pleased and did not feel safe. So anyway, it's a long story that I just ended up telling.
Well, it also puts new perspective. The other day when we were talking about the Ravens trying to bring the draft to Baltimore, you were talking about litter. And this was kind of your backdrop, I'm sure.
I'm sure that was probably on the top of my mind. Yeah. But man, it's a tough one to swallow when you live in this neighborhood and particularly the Patapsco, how blatant littering has ruined the quality of that water for years and years and years. And there's a certain level of carelessness to it that grinds my gears. So anyway, gotta learn from
just go find a garbage can, like when you get out at the next gas station or when you get home or whatever. It's crazy.
Look, I got to learn from it. I know that. I think there's a different way to have handled it, and I'll reflect on that.
We got a couple more super chats during that story. My heart out is 120. I got 5 minutes.
Okay.
So
Sherry, for you.
Sherry says, how are the Bengals so clueless about Hendrickson? Best they've ever had. Come on, Ravens. Make them pay for their stupidity. Love you both, and Voltron.
Thanks, Sherry. Daniel Rodriguez, a.k.a. D-Rod, channel member of ours, says, Bobby, next time do the Voltron call. We got you. Tiffany M.
Oh, I'm not reading this one. I can't say that phrase.
I'm so happy. We got to go in order here. Okay. Got to go in order. Got to read it.
I decline.
We go back and forth here. We're a team.
No, we actually don't always go back and forth. Go ahead, sir.
The fact that you won't say this phrase
You've
is
ruined
hilarious
the
to
phrase
me.
for me.
Okay, I ruined the phrase because of the overusage of it, apparently.
Yeah, and the way you say it.
Well, maybe I feel that way about you with woof.
Do you? Because you seem to like it for a minute there.
Tiffany
Are
M
you
says,
just trying to get back to me, or do you really hate Woof?
yeah, I'm getting after you.
Yes.
Tiffany M says, Bobby stood 10 toes down.
Woof.
Let's go. Let's go, Tiffany. Dre Dog 679.
I got Dre Dog. Here we go. Bobby, book a session with me. Dang, bro. Remember, he's a life coach.
Life coaching. Life coaching. Kobe Pruitt. Why does Joe Burrow get to escape the narrative about being carried by his weapons? The media will use Lamar's weapons to detract from his greatness.
Certainly detracted from his third MVP.
That's what they tried to do last year for sure, and stacked him up against Josh's army. Oh, Paul wants to make sure, Sarah, I'll let you take this one.
He says, thanks, Park Heights Prophet, for the membership. Block at 8 p.m.
And 7 o'clock here inside this channel. Sarah, you'll be running around. You'll be joining me when you can tonight. It's a 7 o'clock start. Isaiah says you're a cool dude, Bobby. Thank you, Isaiah. It's not everybody
You're
thinks
a cool
so.
dude.
Appreciate you.
Despite the 10 toes down phrase, you are a cool dude.
Appreciate, yeah. Thank you. Other than the dangerous tendencies and putting your life and others at risk and making me hate certain English wording and thank you guys. Awesome show today. Over 2,300. Please like the video if you could on the way out. Tila, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. If you want to help us reach 200 channel Voltrons, we're just not going to have a chance to keep doing this because we're both on time crunches right now, but we are closing in on 200. Park Heights Prophet wants to make sure his presence
Park Heights is keeping the lights on in both our homes, keeping this channel running.
Go ahead.
He says, I will be on at 8 p.m. We are hitting 200 when I see that Buffalo game confirmed. I love it.
And I will, for what it's worth, a Bills writer by the name of Sal Capaccio, who has a big following and is the sideline reporter for the Bills, does a number of different things. He's one of the beat guys in Buffalo. He has also confirmed that it's Buffalo, Baltimore, Sunday Night Football, Week 1 in Orchard Park.
Ooh!
Let's just kind of buckle up. We'll wait and see tonight. But that's that. We appreciate you, Park Heights Prophet. We appreciate Be More Around Town ahead of time tonight for the sponsorship opportunity for the third consecutive year. Sarah, we will start this show at 7. You will be in and out. We're still working on guests. We have a $100 Fanatics gift card to Baltimore's team store to give out and a number of other things to do as we get ready for one of the best nights of the year, the NFL's annual schedule release. And there's another super chat. We got to go. Mike says, if you did a Voltron call, who's showing up first?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who is showing up first? While they answer that, I just do want to say one more thing about this situation. While you regret putting yourself and your friends at risk, I don't know what the correct way of going about everything is, but I do appreciate you trying to encourage, maybe we can find better ways to do it, encourage not littering in your own towns and neighborhoods, right? Like somehow that needs to be made a message. I think it's a good message not to, throw trash in our neighborhoods. So for somebody else to handle. So finding the right way for sure. But I do like that you're trying to do something.
That's the umbrella over it all. You hate that it spirals into these situations, which it did, but the umbrella over it all is just my pure love and care and desire for the place I live in, the town that I live in. Sherry just became a new channel member for us on the way out. So we thank you, and we will continue this tonight, 7 o'clock, right here inside the vault. Hopefully you guys will join us. Sherry also on the way out has gifted 5 channel memberships. Sarah, at this rate, I'm going to have to finish up solo. Thank you so much, Sherry. Let us know maybe tonight or right now before we leave, because we got to get our patrons in. Sarah, do you want me to close up shop?
Yeah, I got to. And I think for tonight, Bobby, people just, I'm being in and out the first hour. I think what I'll do is I'll start with you from 7:15 to 7:45. And then I'll be back as soon as I can at 8. How's that?
Okay. Yeah. That's good to know.
Just have kids to run around and unless Trevor somehow gets home from the hospital early, which sometimes never happens. So
all right.
Yeah.
All
right.
No worries. As always, just let me know and I'll finish things up here with making sure we figure out who's on the receiving end of these memberships, patrons, and everything else. So talk to you tonight.
Okay, see you then.
Appreciate you. So Sherry, thank you for these 5 additional channel memberships. Let us know who's on the receiving end. Who's it going to be? But we're fully caught up now on Super Chats for the moment. That allows us to get to our monthly shout out. Patreon sponsors, Joseph Hester and Laura. Thank you both for believing in what we're building. This is your monthly shout out. We appreciate you for being part of the Patreon community. It's an awesome growing community. Patreon.com/RavensVault podcast is how you can learn more to get involved if you so choose to. With that, I think we are finally fully caught up to speed. So thank you to everyone who was involved in the gift giving today. Just as a review, we had Olu become a new channel member. We had Sonia and Mysteriously Unnamed and Sheree become new channel members. Nate Campbell gifted one. Justin Holt became a Voltron. A lot of people celebrating 2 months of channel membership. And Sherry not only became a channel member, but also gifted 5. Thank you to everybody. Really appreciate you. And tonight's going to be a lot of fun. I'm with you, Holly. Tonight's going to be a lot of fun. Got a lot more to do in terms of the planning that is required to make sure tonight goes really well. You know we love these big events. You know we love these mega casts. We hope you'll join us at 7 o'clock. There's a Fanatics giveaway. There's special guests. There's content. There's a schedule release to be learned of and everything else in between, including telling you about Be More Around Town. You already know Brian Snyder and his crew. They're going to be rolling out all the purple road trips and a number of other things, including home game tailgates, as Tilly tries to make her way into the end of this live stream. We almost made it, 1 hour and 20 minutes, but what are you going to do? Toto, it's all good. We're going to close out now. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the love. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. Like the video on your way out, and Sarah and I'll be back with you at 7 o'clock tonight. For Sarah, I'm Bobby signing off. Appreciate you guys, and as always, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the vault. Talk to you.